What if the way your mind works right now is silently costing you everything? Not your money, not your time, your peace, your clarity, your ability to simply exist without the constant noise of your own thoughts tearing you apart from the inside. Most people spend their entire lives never understanding what is actually happening inside their own heads. They feel the erosion. They notice the sleepless nights. They sense that something, somewhere, went wrong. But they never find the source. Today, that changes. Because what you are about to learn are not motivational quotes, not feel-good advice. These are 7 precise, battle-tested mental shifts discovered by men who lived through war, slavery, exile, and collapse. Men who had every reason to break and didn't. Once you understand these shifts, you will never see your own mind the same way again. Let's begin. Topic 1. Why your mind is already working against you. Before the 7 shifts, here is something no one ever told you. Your mind was not built for peace. It was built for survival. Every single morning before you check your phone, before you speak a single word, your brain is already scanning, looking for threats, looking for problems, looking for everything that could go wrong today. This is not a personal flaw. This is ancient wiring. The same mechanism that kept your ancestors alive in genuinely dangerous environments is the same mechanism that fires when you wake up at 3 a.m. with a low-grade anxiety you cannot name. Think about the last time you had a perfectly normal day, nothing went wrong, and yet something felt heavy, off. That is your threat detection system running in the background, scanning, always scanning. The Stoics did not have neuroscience, but they saw this pattern with extraordinary clarity. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, wrote about it in private journals he never intended anyone to read. Not lectures, not performances. Real, unfiltered observations about his own mind turning against him, about the exhausting noise of his own thoughts, about how difficult it was to simply get out of bed in the morning. And here is what makes that remarkable. He wasn't complaining, he was diagnosing. Because before you can fix anything, you have to see it clearly. Shift 1. You are not your thoughts. The observer. Let me ask you something. When a dark thought appears in your mind, a fear, a worry, a worst-case scenario, do you believe it immediately? Most people do. And that is the first trap. The Stoics called this the impression, the raw, unfiltered mental image that hits your mind before you have had a single second to evaluate it. A thought appears. You become it. A fear surfaces. It becomes reality. A negative story starts running. You follow it, all the way down. Here is what Epictetus understood. A man born into slavery, who owned nothing, who had no freedom. He said, "The thing that disturbs men is never the event itself. It is always the story they attach to the event." Always. Asterisk real-life scenario. Think about the last time your phone buzzed with a message from someone important. Before you even opened it, your mind had already written 3 versions of what it might say. None of them were accurate. That is the impression. That is the first draft your mind creates before you have seen a single fact. The first shift is simply this. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. Asterisk tonight's practice. The next time a negative thought appears, don't fight it. Don't believe it. Just name it. Say quietly to yourself, there is a thought. It is not me. Do this 3 times today. Just 3 times. And notice what happens. Shift 2. The space between event and story. Separating what happened from what you told yourself. 2 people can go through the exact same experience and live completely different lives afterward. Same event. Different story. Think about that. You have probably seen this yourself. 2 people lose their jobs on the same day. Same company. Same circumstances. One spirals for months, paralyzed, angry, convinced it is proof that nothing will ever work for them. The other reorients within weeks, uses it as a turning point, finds something better. The external event was identical. The internal story was not. As real-life scenario, think about the last time someone said something critical about your work. In that moment, your mind did not just register the words, it immediately attached a meaning. They don't respect me. I am not good enough. This always happens to me. That meaning, that story was not a fact. It was a draft, written in seconds, by a mind that was never taught to pause. The second shift is this. The world will always hand you a narrative. If you don't choose your own, it will choose one for you, and it will rarely be in your favor. Asterisk tonight's practice. Think of one difficult thing that happened to you recently. Write down 1. What actually happened, just the facts. 2. What story you attach to it. Look at the gap between those two things. That gap is where your freedom lives. Shift 3. The dichotomy of control. What is yours to carry? In the 2nd century AD, Marcus Aurelius was managing an empire slowly coming apart. Plague was moving through Roman cities. Wars were bleeding the borders. His closest advisors were dying, and he was doing all of this while privately battling something no one around him could see: his own mind. In his journals, he kept returning to the same problem. Not enemy generals, not political betrayal, the weight of things outside his control. He wasn't asking the universe for relief. He was training himself to stop asking. Asterisk, real life scenario. Asterisk, think about the last time you couldn't sleep. What were you thinking about? Was it something you could actually change by lying awake at 3 a.m.? Or was it an outcome, a result, a decision someone else was going to make, completely outside your hands? Most people, when they honestly examine what they are carrying, discover that the overwhelming majority of it was never theirs to carry, not even close. The 3rd shift is this: direct your full energy only toward what your actions can actually change. Everything else, observe it, note it, let it move past you like weather. Asterisk, tonight's practice. Take a piece of paper. Draw a line down the middle. On the left, write everything worrying you right now. On the right, mark each one, mine or not mine. Then look at the not mine column. That is the weight you are carrying for free. Put it down. Shift 4. Borrowed fear. Suffering that never had to happen. There is a specific kind of suffering the Stoics identified that almost no one talks about. It doesn't come from loss, or failure, or actual hardship. It comes from imagination. Your mind rehearsing pain that has not happened yet. Running scenarios. Building catastrophes out of possibilities. Treating imagination as evidence. The Stoics called it borrowed fear, and they considered it one of the most destructive forces a mind could generate, because real suffering, at least, ends. Borrowed fear doesn't. Ask, real-life scenario. Has you ever spent 3 days dreading a conversation you needed to have, only to have that conversation last 10 minutes and go completely fine? Those 3 days of dread, that suffering was real, but the thing causing it didn't exist yet. You borrowed the pain in advance and paid full price for something that may never arrive. Seneca said it plainly. Most men suffer more in imagination than in reality, not occasionally, across an entire lifetime. The 4th shift is the Stoic practice of negative visualization, not pessimism, not catastrophizing. You deliberately, calmly, imagine losing what you value most, not to spiral, but to neutralize the fear before it can control you, because the mind fears most what it has never faced, even in thought. Asterisks tonight's practice. Pick one thing you are currently afraid of losing. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Imagine it is gone, not dramatically, calmly. Feel what remains. Then open your eyes. Notice that you are still here, still breathing, still standing, and notice very carefully how much lighter the fear feels now. Shift 5. You only ever have now. The Stoic obsession with the present. Here is a question worth sitting with. How much of your mental energy today was spent in the past, replaying a conversation, regretting a decision, reliving something that is already finished? And how much was spent in the future, rehearsing problems that haven't happened, planning for outcomes you cannot control, living 3 months ahead of where you actually are? Now ask yourself, how much were you actually here, present, fully, in this day? Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man who lives scattered across the past and future never actually lives at all. He exists, but he is never fully present in his own life. Asterisk, real life scenario. Think about the last meal you ate. Do you remember what it tasted like? Or were you on your phone? Or replaying something from earlier? Or already thinking about what comes next? Most people live their entire lives as visitors in their own moments. The 5th shift is this. The past is finished. The future is not yet real. The only place your life is actually happening is right now. Asterisk tonight's practice. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, sit for 2 minutes. Just notice 5 things you can see, 4 you can hear, 3 you can feel. That is it. That is the entire practice. 2 minutes of being actually here, and do it every morning for 1 week. Shift 6. The identity that cannot be taken. Building your worth from the inside. Here is an uncomfortable question. If everyone stopped approving of you tomorrow, who would you be? If no one validated your work, praised your choices, acknowledged your worth, what would remain? The Stoics were deeply suspicious of external validation, not because they were arrogant, because they understood something precise. A man who builds his sense of self on what others think of him has handed control of his inner world to strangers, people who don't fully know him, people who are dealing with their own chaos, people who will forget him by tomorrow. As real-life scenario, think about the last time someone criticized you or ignored your work. How long did it stay with you? Hours? Days? Now think about why. Not because they were right, but because somewhere inside, you were waiting for their verdict to confirm your own. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, your mind was complicit in the provocation. The 6th shift is this. Your worth is not decided in public. It is built in private. In the discipline you maintain when no one is watching. In the integrity you hold when holding it costs you something. Tonight's practice. Before you sleep tonight, write down 3 things you did today that you are genuinely, privately proud of. Things no one saw, no one praised, no one validated, just you. Do this every night for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, you will have built something that no outside opinion can reach, because it was built where no opinion could touch it. Shift 7. Memento mori. The clarity that only finitude can give. This is the quietest shift, and perhaps the most permanent. The Stoics practiced something they called memento mori, a daily reminder that this life is finite, not as darkness, as clarity. Ask. Real-life scenario. Think about the things you are postponing right now. The conversation you keep delaying, the project you keep almost starting, the version of yourself you keep planning to become. Why are you postponing them? Usually, if you are honest, it is because somewhere in the back of your mind you believe there is more time, that you will get to it, that tomorrow is available. The Stoics challenged that assumption every single day, not to create despair, but because a man who genuinely understands that his time is limited stops wasting it on things that don't matter. He stops performing for audiences who aren't watching. He stops postponing the life he actually wants to live. And what remains when all of that falls away is something very difficult to shake. A quiet, grounded, unshakable core, not built on confidence, not built on success, not built on what others think, built on the one thing no external force can ever reach, a mind that knows exactly what it is and exactly what it isn't. Tonight's practice. Ask yourself one question tonight. If I knew I had 1 year left, what would I stop doing and what would I finally begin? Write down one answer for each. Just one. You don't have to act on it tonight. Just let it sit. Let it be honest. Let it show you something. Closing. The final 60 seconds. The Stoics did not promise happiness. They promised something far more useful. Stability. Real, tested, pressure-resistant stability. The kind that doesn't collapse when life stops cooperating. The kind that was forged, not given. 7 shifts. You won't master all of them tonight. You won't even remember all of them tomorrow. But if even one of them reached something real in you, start there. Just one. Practice it for a week. And then come back, because there is more worth knowing.